city that we love. An evil force has corrupted our home. Many fell and now the bards they stand alone. Blessed power rains down in waterfall. Holy magic desired by the Emerald Cabal. Injustice rots our city's very soul. Oppression is the noble's only goal. Rebellion rings in every street and every tavern hall. Now the time has come, my friends, to all answer the call. All answer the call. Now answer the Sirens Battle of the Bards is an epic 5th edition campaign and setting, set in the decadent city of Salvata. Filled to the brim with over 300 pages, 20 adventures, over 10 new bard subclasses, and countless magical items, this is a fully immersive adventure. Mystery, intrigue, and deception lurk within every dark alley. The city of Salvata features 10 districts, including battle coliseums, amphitheaters, comedy clubs, taverns, bazaars, underground magic fighting rings, a new bardic university, and much, much more. You don't need to be a bard to adventure here. All are welcome in Salvata. Dive even further into the story with our partners, Mixed Dimensions, Wormwood, Level Up Dice, Campaign Coins, and Sirenscape. With the Weave storytelling platform, Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Shard, and Foundry VTT, you can even play virtually. With a full orchestral soundtrack, multiple endings, and new game mechanics to encourage exploration and improvisation, Sirens Battle of the Bards places your party not only in the crucible of conquest, but at the heart of a battle for the soul of a growing empire. Will you sell out? Will the city be ground to dust? Will the heavens be lured down and open before you? Will you join the Emerald Cabal, the Rebellion, or forge your own path? The fate of tens of thousands is in your party's hands. Join our Kickstarter and inspire revolution. Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little discussion that Jamison and I have we did a couple days ago, and I am just so flabbergasted at the support for this Kickstarter. For those of you who haven't gone there, you're just walking into this Twitch channel. Hi, I'm Satine Phoenix, and this is my Twitch channel, and this is our Kickstarter. Go to thebardbook.com and scroll down on the right for the tier of your choice. And there's also add-ons on top of that if you want to add on some dice, Wormwood products, campaign coins. We have a whole slew, a bunch of awesome things like Sirenscape to add in. Those are all the things that kind of get you in the mood for your game. But what I want to talk about is mechanics and the crunch and the gritty parts of building the adventure. And with us is 2C Gaming. If you guys want to introduce yourselves and explain what 2C Gaming is and does.
Yeah, well, my name is Celeste Conowitch. I'm a newly hired game designer with 2C Gaming. So I'll let my design partner, Ryan, tell you a little bit more about who 2C Gaming is.
Yeah, so we're 2C Gaming, which is a small, well, was small, getting larger every year, indie design house for specifically RPGs, but we like to do lots of cool 5th edition stuff. We've done lots of interesting books, and we typically do Kickstarter projects to produce lots of fun and exciting RPG stuff, such as the Venture Maidens Kickstarter, which we're running right now, which is a brainchild of Celeste's and is doing absolutely wonderfully. So if you're ever interested,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you're ever interested in seeing what we get up to, we pride ourselves on our ability to create really interesting and effective designs, specifically ones that merge fluff and crunch while staying true to the spirit of 5th edition.
Yes.
Because we believe strongly those things don't have to exist in isolation. They often do, but they definitely don't have to. And that's part of why we've gotten a lot of acclaim and repute for doing a good job in that. And that's what we're here to talk about, because there's a few things in this world more fun than talking about how to put wonderful RPG world stuff together.
That's right. So again, congratulations on your Kickstarter. That is so exciting. It's very beautiful. So I want to talk about, well, Sirens Battle of the Bards. And, you know, we've kind of gone back and forth with you just a little bit about the chapter 1. So you were a big part of chapter 1. We wanted to focus on the story while keeping it interesting with number crunch, right? So it's easy to say, oh, you know, this is the adventure, and also, you know, things go vertically, or they, you know, kind of, here's an idea of something, go play this idea. It was really awesome going back and forth with you guys about like how to take an idea that is tangible and easy for a game master to like brainstorm on their own, and then bring it and make it available for everyone. For instance, I was talking about very recently the different tiers, you know, making this adventure available. We start at level tier 2, but also making it interesting for tier 3 and tier 4 as well. But you guys are the masters at mechanics, far more masterful than myself. I'm just maniacal. But you know, like I would love to hear your views on, and like how you kind of stick to the mechanics as a to make a story more vibrant.
Yeah. So, oh, Celeste, would you like to start
No,
this?
go for it.
Okay. So,
Or both of you.
one of the things we pride ourselves on is being very good at what we do, but also not feeling like we always know exactly what we're talking about. So Celeste, for example, brings to the table a lot of interesting perspectives and approaches to design that I myself did not use until meeting her or working with her. So one of the things that's fun about that is she will have her own perspectives and philosophies that we often feel are useful in certain projects and certain designs. And I will have mine, and we'll have discussions where we go back and forth, and she'll have an idea that's a lot better than mine on something, on how to do something, and we'll use hers, or vice versa. So that's a fun part of that process. But when it comes to creating mechanical design, as a general rule for us with 2C gaming, is maintaining the spirit of 5th edition as much as we possibly can, which usually means we're trying to minimize the amount of overhead required to run the thing without compromising its design goals. Sometimes this means something ends up being complex because that's the only way to achieve its design goals. But what we like to do is distill whatever we're trying to do down to its simplest possible objectives. Like, what do we want people to experience when they're using this? Is this player facing content? Is this DM facing content? How do we make this as usable as possible without making it oversimplified or taking out the spirit or the nugget of what makes it super special? So we've done this for a lot of different things. And when we're looking at adventures specifically, we're often trying to balance a usability on the DM side. When we create a piece of content, that's like, we're not going to create things that aren't going to be used. We want to help refine and build out things that work super well. And then also making sure that the mechanics are fun and interesting for players from how they're seeing things in the adventure, because it's sometimes very tricky to remember when adventure writing that the players don't see 99% of what is going on. So when you create mechanics for them, you're not just thinking about what it does to their characters, but you're thinking about how it affects their behavior. So you want to positively reinforce the kind of behaviors you want to see from your players and adventures, and negatively reinforce the kind of behaviors you don't want to see. If you've ever had an adventure go off the rails, it's usually because something about the adventure's design was telling the players to go in a direction that the story didn't actually want them to go in. And it's hard to know when exactly that's happening, but once you figure it out, and often it's a hindsight thing, once the adventure's all done, you look back and you're like, oh, that's why. But in the moment as you're writing it, it's hard to notice that. So that's something we're really looking for. Celeste, you've had a lot of experience doing adventure writing, I think, for Wizards of the Coast, I believe. So I think your opinions on adventures here would be very good to get, specifically for how we approach design and whatnot.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, what's cool about, I mean, we've been I feel like working on this project has been really great because it's also we're facing some of the challenges that with Venture Maidens that we've been working on. Like, how do you make a campaign setting that has all these mechanical pieces that feels interesting, that can inspire stories, that can make artists give artists mechanics right in this world. So how do you give creativity mechanics? So every step of the way, we're trying to design things that are inspiring. So when you look at something on a page, you don't just see numbers and like math, but you read a mechanic and you go, oh my gosh, like that's an amazing thread for an adventure or a subplot, or I see the way it ties into everything. So we really aim for that kind of elegance, I think, with our mechanics, that it feels like something innovative and just open enough that people can add their imagination to it, but they have a grounding influence with the numbers and the leveling. So there's a really interesting balance that you have to strike when making, settings as robust and interesting as these settings we're dealing with. So that's something we've really enjoyed, especially with this project. And I'm sure more and more as it goes on, it'll be, marrying that creativity with the foundational mechanics that let people dream big, but have something to kind of ground their character.
Yeah, totally. I was thinking about how awesome it was. We were going back and forth about DCs, um, when we're making this. And I noticed that a lot of people make adventures, but they're like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be across the board. And then I was thinking about how to use mechanics to encourage the storytelling. And it's almost like baiting your players a little bit. And you're like, yeah, here's your intro adventure. Look at how low that DC is. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Oh, look at how creative you can get. And then by the end of it, they're like, the DC is risen up to an appropriate level. And they're like, but it was so easy. And you're like, yes, but now you can play so much more dynamically. That's been really fun to do here. And I'm really excited to work with you guys on how to kind of use that rhythm, right? Because I talk about, we have geometry bards. It's like the College of Geometry is the subclass that we're working on, where it's like intelligence based, right? But also celebrating math and mechanics. And so you guys are our geometry bards for this book.
Like, we love shapes.
Yeah.
It is interesting too, because how do you communicate that to somebody, especially because you have all kinds of players walking up to this table, maybe people who have never even delved into artistic pursuits or don't know anything about how geometry actually works, and your mechanics have to make them feel the beauty that these subclasses, these classes see inside of this, and like how that fits in the world. So it's a very meta sort of challenge that you're always dealing with, getting those numbers to incorporate with the story and have anybody walk up to the table and feel comfortable playing these classes.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't checked it out yet, we have some free samples of chapter 1 and some of the backgrounds, like the history of Salvata and some of the NPCs. You can go to thebardbook.com, scroll down, and there's the free sample of the PDF. It has some maps in there. We also have Sirenscape. You can get a free download of the matching Sirenscape sound set, which is super cool. And also we have a sample of Foundry VTT's so it's like the playtest sample that we have on Foundry VTT. We will have all of the book on 4 different VTTs, and maybe more. I think we're talking to one more, so that you can pick the VTT that you want. But right now, those are the 3 free samples that we have. And yeah, so I'd like to talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges that have been those, oh, awesome, like really successful, happy obstacles that you guys have come across when doing what you do?
So we had one related to this project specifically. Are we allowed to talk about our alternative class option that has been discussed in meetings, or are we holding that in reserve?
No, we're holding that one. That one we're holding.
Okay. So now we'll sorry, I'm glad I
know,
checked.
like, what can we spell? What can we not
Yeah. Sorry, no, it's good we checked.
You can talk around it. How is it difficult?
No, we just had a wonderful big brain moment when working on this project that one day we'll get to talk about, but I guess today is not that day. But Celeste, if you have some big brain moments you'd like to share, take it away. I just got to think of a few. But
Thank you for asking though, if we can talk about it too. Because like all of our writers were just like, and
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, talking in general terms, certainly the way 5e exists is evolving very rapidly. The 5e that we saw, when it came out years ago, versus the 5e we're playing with today is very interesting in terms of how to balance classes and how to make them effective, how to play a new version of a class or a subclass alongside an older version. Like, how do you open that up? How do you make something new that actually works and feels good to everyone? So with this, exploring those challenges and proposing a really creative take on a very familiar concept has been a really interesting challenge. It's really about looking at what does exist and how can we change it? How can we do something bold that works and inspires people? That has definitely been a happy challenge on this project, getting to build something new but still familiar.
Yeah, for me, oftentimes I'm very skeptical of my own stuff until I see it in practice, or I was for a very long time. I'm a little more confident now with all the books that I published, so it works out. But for a long time, it was this looks like it'll work, and then I'd try it, and then if it worked, it was just over the moon. And I think my favorite example of a big brain design moment is I wanted a dragon design, because dragons are very samey in 5e. They're just different colors with slightly different flavors of breath weapons, but how they play is all exactly the same: tail smack, claw smack, bite smack.
Yeah.
Right. They're very straightforward. And it's nice, but when you want to give it a little more oomph, you come to look for ways to make them feel dragony without parading in the same space. So we made this big epic dragon, and he could grapple you with his bite attack, because getting grabbed by a dragon and held in his mouth, cool fantasy option. I was like, well, what happens if it uses a breath weapon and you're grappled? And I was like, oh, that's a good question. So what I had, it had a special rule on it where it was like, if you are grappled when it uses breath weapon, you automatically fail your saving throw. Automatically, like you just don't.
Yeah.
It's over. And what was hilarious was when we tested it, it grappled the paladin. And if you're familiar with 5th edition paladins, you know that they're usually I'm really OP and don't have to care about any mechanics because I have +5 to all of my saves and can heal myself and cast spells and all this other nonsense. And the paladin was like, told the party out loud, I wish I'd recorded this. He said, "Don't worry, guys, I'll be fine. I'm a paladin." And then just like the next turn, obliterated, like full to dead, destroyed. And what was the best part is the player goes, "You know what? Fair." And I was like, okay, so like not only did that design work, but it completely ruined this player. And the player was like, that was totally fair. And that not only was that a success in mechanical design, but it was a success in meta design, because the experience I wanted the player to have, which was you misplayed and you paid the price, that is exactly what we got. And I was like,
Yeah.
nailed it. And that was a very formative experience for me as a designer. Good time.
Yeah, totally.
Good times. Fun perks of the job. You get to blow up paladins.
Yeah. Figure out the best way to do so. Constantly.
Yes.
Well, that's one of the things that we are talking about, is how do you play an adventure in a city that is all mostly, charisma-based bards? And we have talked a little bit in some interviews about a dex-based bard and an intelligence-based bard. We have them kind of separated from introverts and extroverts, and I'm sure you and I will have a lot of conversations about this in the future. But it's like, how do you design a game, a campaign where the majority of people are charming and performers?
You want to take this one, Celeste?
Yeah, definitely. Learning about this project and reading about this project, I have a degree in theater, so it just reminds me so much of those micro organizations of like when you're looking at a theater troupe or you are looking at an art school, all of the politics that happen amongst all of these different people who are powerhouses in their own right. And so I think a lot of designing successful adventures when everybody is so hands-on and charismatic is really about setting up the political situations, the exchange of power, who wants what from who, and how are they going to go about getting it. And following those fluctuations of what is happening is what makes the game so interesting. The relationships in adventures like that become so important. So you build, these awesome NPCs that are intriguing and have very strong motivations that helps push the story further, more than say like, just a random monster, blasting in there, or like, oh, everyone's evil. Like, this is clearly fine. It does definitely require more of an interest, almost like a Game of Thrones sort of intrigue that really advances the plots of adventures in settings like this.
Yeah, and people have been talking about online or I'm posting, I'm like, ooh, bards are like, man, bards,
No,
the slutty
bards are
ludists,
cool.
Yeah.
Some
I'm like,
of them, but
wait.
yeah.
But there's so many more, like even in just what D&D's put out, the bards are starting to get a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Tasha's has some really cool bards. There's a creation bard, bard of eloquence, and that was kind of takes it into a different area where you're like, oh, here's another way to look at these bards. They can do more stuff. And it's not all in your face like da 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 da, da performer.
Yeah.
One of the things we're also exploring is how does the high charisma bad guy, like what are they like? I mean, here's somebody who's like the leader of this like Emerald Cabal faction, and why does he have so many followers? Oh my god, he's so charming, and he really is that like motivational speaker bard person, and you're just like, yeah, whatever you want, I think it sounds great, let's do it. So we have only a couple minutes left. I would like for you guys to, if you have any last thoughts or want to tell everyone where they can find you, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, my name is Celeste Conowitch. I'm a full-time game designer with 2C Gaming, and I do a lot of other freelance work for companies like Cobalt Press. I was one of the writers on Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden, if you want a frosty adventure. The best way to keep up with me and all the things I'm doing is to follow me on Twitter at @cconowitch, or you can check out the full catalog of my work, find more news about the Venture Maidens campaign guide, which is ongoing now, and of course the shows I run at my website, celesteconowitch.com.
Yay! And I love Venture Maidens. Like, I really do. I'm so excited that you're finally putting it into a book. Yes!
Yes! I love all of these like awesome creative Kickstarter projects out right now. It's a great time to be game designing.
Seriously.
Yeah. So I'm Ryan, I'm the lead designer over at 2C Gaming. You'll find all our work at 2cgaming.com. You won't find much about me there because I like to bury my nose in books and not do a whole lot else. But if you want to have a conversation with me, the best way to do it is to jump into our Discord server, the link of which is on our Twitter profile at 2C Gaming. And you can tell me about all the things you hate or love about my books. And I promise I will listen to all of it. I can't promise I will agree with everything you say, but I will listen to what you have to say because it is interesting. I love hearing people's opinions on things, even if they're very curious opinions.
I like that. Very curious. That's interesting. I'm slightly confused, but I appreciate your conversation.
Yeah.
So thank you guys, 2C Gaming, for being here. Super appreciated. And if you guys want to continue the conversation, go to the Gilding Light Discord or the Apotheosis Studios Discord, or even I want to give a shout out to my Facebook group family, the D&D 5e Facebook group. They are so much fun. This whole week I've been posting, oh my God, are you supposed to be crying when you see the cover of your book? Is this the thing that happens? Oh, hey, look at my minis. Oh, look at my dice. And they've just been so encouraging and uplifting. And this conversation is something that I want to continue all over the internets.